Good evening. It's 6:30. We have the planning quorum for the planning board here, and I'll call the meeting to order. For the planning board, members in attendance are Joe Zagrodnik, myself, Jim Maximowski, Bill Dwyer, and Mark Dunn. Matt Weldrip will not be joining us tonight. He has another appointment someplace else. First up for general information, Mr. Dwyer.
Mr. Iser was the first one in.
And I'm only here to watch this evening.
Okay.
Okay.
You lead a dull, boring existence, then.
Sometimes that is true, Joe, but I've got to be here to support my neighbor tonight.
Okay. Next in was Jonathan Carr.
Oh, hi there. Hi, everybody. I'm back again this week to share my site plan for the proposed pavilion we're hoping to build at 295 River Drive. And you had asked last week for more detail. So I drew up a map. I hope I did it well, good enough for your standards. I hope it should be clear. So there was just some questions. Sorry, I was going to say there were some questions about the parking plan, and just hope to address them with the site map.
Okay. Do an email search here.
The last one you sent out was yesterday.
Yep.
Okay. That's funny. I'm not finding that. Okay, let me go to my sent items. Okay. Okay, so one is just your construction details, which is of more interest to the building department.
Yep.
Okay, I got to manipulate this a little bit. Comes in a little out of scale, so. Yeah. Edit.
Is the planning board going to go back to in-person meetings at some point, or is it Zoom?
We're going to stay on Zoom.
Just on Zoom?
It's just going to stay on Zoom.
Okay.
Yes, it's the attendance is far better because a lot of times we have people coming in from far away, as far as, well, literally Florida, even sometimes the Midwest, different who the contractors and attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just so convenient for everybody.
Okay, great.
Okay. I think I have it manipulated enough, so let me get back in. There.
That's it.
Okay.
And so just to orient you, that's kind of a view from the north. That's River Drive on the right-hand side, the very right hand of the drawing. And the red arrows indicate the traffic flow. So we have an entrance and then an area where cars turn in. There's some parking there. and then there's a larger parking area to the left-hand side. And then there's a dedicated exit back out onto River Drive. And so, by my estimation, allowing for 10 by 20 parking spaces, I have 28 parking spaces.
Okay. Nice drawing.
Ah, thanks.
Really, I mean, you've drawn it to scale. That's what we want. It doesn't have to be on the computer, but it's a nice, clear drawing.
Okay, good, great.
Yeah, I found this to be much improved over the last one. I just wish that I had asked for some dimensions to be put on it too, because I don't want to torture you over this. It just
The frontage is 175. Each square is 5 feet. So
Mark, we do have actual design drawing for the pavilion if you want to see that. See if I can bring that up. Do it a different way. Okay, well, maybe that's it. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that was the structure, and then these are the running dimensions of it.
correct.
Okay.
So it's what, 70?
70 by 12.
And what are the setbacks from the street and from the side property line?
The side property line is 25, and the street is at least 75. I'd have to double check, but it's behind the current farm stand.
Okay.
Yeah, and we only require a 15-foot setback for structures, accessory structures.
Very good. Any questions or comments from anybody on the board? Anybody else? Anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve the revised pavilion plans.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr.
Gunn,
Dwyer?
aye.
Sorry.
Wire aye.
Max Samaski, aye.
Rodnick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. I'll get a email out to the building inspector, and he's not on right now. But anyways, so you can literally go down here in a couple of days and get the permit.
All right, that's great. Thanks so much for your help.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, bye-bye now.
Yeah, Tammy is on from the building department, so and then we just had Julio. Can
Julio,
we help
you're
you?
up.
Hi.
What can we do for you?
Hi, my name is Julio. I had a question. I need a certificate for my little business, The business is landscaping.
Where are you located?
Is Hadley,
What's the address?
87 Roselle Street,
87 Roosevelt?
Roselle Street.
Is it Russell Street?
Yes.
RUSSELL? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not quite sure what you're looking for. Who told you to contact us?
It's in the town. Jean.
He perhaps is looking for a certificate.
Who told you in the town to come see us?
Uh,
Town
just-
clerk?
I just gonna try it and explain a little bit better.
Okay,
We went to the town of Hadley, and the guy in there, I believe it's called Jim, told us to meet with you guys. That way you can like approve the certificate, and that way he can have the certificate for his little company that he's gonna build by his own.
you went to see the building inspector? What office did you, when you went into the town hall, where did you go?
It's right here in the Russell Street, and the one in town of Hadley. That's the one we went. And the guy was like, you guys had a talk with the meeting. They're gonna have a meeting. We messed up one meeting that passed already. So this is the second one that we were trying to enter. So yeah, that's all we want to know. Like he just wanna create his own company. It's just gonna be a little company. He just have like 2 trucks and a little bit of equipment that he wants to use it, but he want to do everything legal. So that's why he needs the you guys approve the certificate for him. That way the other guy can sign it and give it to him.
Oh. So you're at 87 Russell Street,
87 Russell Street. That's correct.
and you're gonna use the existing buildings.
Yes, it's a rental house.
Okay. Oh, that's the first house for everybody to understand. That's the first house west of the old North Hadley garage. I mean, the old Hadley garage, not North Hadley, Hadley garage.
What's that?
I'm just telling the members of the board where it's located.
All right.
It's west of the Hadley garage, of the old Hadley garage, the old
West.
Neobalis garage.
Yep.
West Jib is the Echelon.
No, that's east.
Oh, okay, you're right. Okay, the one that's been redone. I got you.
Yeah.
The building that was redone, they took the car building off.
Yeah, they took that old building down and it's just left
I
with
got you.
the house.
Thank you.
And it's across from Alina's, right?
Well, not quite, but close.
Okay.
Actually, it's a little bit down the street from Molina's.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, not even a quarter mile.
Hang on a sec.
Okay.
So there it is.
Yep.
Sorry, don't want to. Yeah, this is the North Hadley Garage. This is Essalon, North Hadley Garage.
Hadley
and
Garage.
This is the property.
Yep.
Cumbies is down here. or not Cumbies, this is the Big
Big
Y
Y.
gas station.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we would like to see is just a sketch of the property and where you are going to park on the property.
It's just gonna be in the backside where the parking lot is.
But we would like to see you put it on a drawing, hand drawing, like the person that was just in front of us,
Yep.
Carl Snyder House. Saw the kind of drawing he did on just a piece of graph paper.
Just give me a minute. I'll grab some right now.
Okay.
It might be helpful if they could use the GIS website to get their convention.
Hey, Mr. Quinlan, we have this gentleman here says he was told to come to the planning board to get a certificate for a landscape business on Route 9. Do you know anything about that?
Repeat, please.
These gentlemen are here. They're looking for a
Hi.
Hi.
I actually spoke to them. So, I happened to be in the office when they came in. They wanted a business certificate, but they told me that, it was gonna be on Route 9 on Russell Street. That they were gonna be putting a sign. And also right now, at the moment, there was not a business in there. So I told them that they need to go in front of the planning board because it's a landscaping business, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and they said that they were gonna be parking their vehicles, their equipment there too. So that's why I told them, whoops. Tommy, what did you do? That's why I told them to, there we go. I told them that they needed to go in front of you guys and get approval that it was gonna be okay with you, because with parking and things like that, I didn't know what the situation was gonna be, plus them wanting to put a sign there.
So we need that drawing from you, and we need to know what your sign is going to look like and where you're going to put it.
We're not gonna put a sign down. I don't know if it does.
You're not gonna have a sign?
No.
Okay.
So this is basically almost like this. So this is the street, the main street. This is Russell Street. This is the house, and this is the entrance for the parking lot. And we're gonna be parking over here in the backside.
Okay. If you could just put that little sketch that you did on a piece of paper and draw it to some kind of a scale and just email it to the planning@hadleyma.gov. It's right on the agenda today that you signed in with, and we'll take a look at it, and you should be, what you want to do is fine.
Okay.
We don't see any problem with what you want to do. Because of what we do, we need to have it properly documented so that none of us get into any kind of trouble down the road.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay. If you saw the drawing that Mr. Carr Cider House just had,
Yep.
watching that,
Yeah, I can do that.
the gentleman that was just on here, where he had a drawing on just a plain piece of graph paper, that would work. It doesn't have to be on a computer. Draw it to scale, and We should be good. Everybody should be okay.
We also, if you could, if you could access the town GIS through the assessor's office, you can print out this picture right here and use
Okay.
that to show where you're going to put it. The reason we want the picture is that sometimes people do funny things, and in this case, you don't have, the house is so close to the road, you don't have room to park a truck in front.
Yep.
But that's what we need to look at. So even if you could just print out something like this, and then we should be okay.
And Bill,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure either if there was wetlands back there, because I know some of the properties back there do have some, so that was my other concern. I just happened to be in the office when they walked in, and I was the only one that could help them, so.
So I think it is in the flood zone, but let me just throw up the DEP wetlands and FEMA flood.
Seems like they're not going to be doing anything with the driveway anyway.
They're just,
No, but if they're having
Required.
equipment there, that was my concern, is their equipment.
It's just gonna be like hand tools. It's not gonna be nothing bigger.
Yeah, but are you having dump trucks? I mean, you're a landscaping business. Are you gonna have lawnmowers and things like that there?
No, at the moment.
Well, are you eventually? I mean, that's what when you guys came in, you told me that's where you were keeping all your equipment. And if you're a landscaping business, then you're gonna have lawnmowers and probably a trailer and I'm sure trucks and a dump truck and things like that.
Yeah,
That's why we need to know these things.
Yeah, we have one dump truck, and the people that we are working to, it's they got their own equipment, and like mowers and everything. We usually use them. Their mowers, no. I don't see us buying one soon, to be honest.
So you're actually looking for a couple of things. The certificate you need is a doing business as certificate that you get from the town clerk.
Yep.
Approval you get from us is because you're changing the use of the property from rental property to business property, which is not a big deal. It's zoned for business, but that's something that we have to sign off on.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the reason why I didn't sign off on that paper when they came from Jessica's office to the building department, because I wanted to make sure you guys were given the proper approval first before we signed off, because then the building department has to sign off on it.
Okay. All right, so you get that to us, you come back in 2 weeks, and we'll take you up as a waiver of site plan approval.
All right.
Okey doke.
okay.
So that'll be all then.
That'll be all for now. We'll see you in
That's
2
it, yeah.
weeks.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Dwyer.
That is it for general business.
Okey doke. Well, with that noted, we will open the public hearing. As I'll read it, I won't read it word for word because it's too long and wordy, but I will briefly read it. The Hadley Planning Board will conduct a Zoom public hearing on Tuesday, April 1, 2025, beginning at 6:45 p.m. The purpose of the first hearing is to review the following proposed amendment to the zone bylaw. Amend section 28 solar energy systems by amending subsection 28.5.2, and add a new section 28.5.4.3.15. Number 2, amend section 17, Senior Housing Overlay District, by changing the name of the two existing districts into 2 different names: Central Senior Housing Overlay District and Rural Senior Housing Overlay District, and amend several sections of section 28.7 to allow more senior housing unit to be constructed per acre as a total per town and within the building, and amend the parking regulations. And also, the second hearing is to revise the planning board fee schedule. Complete plans, amendments, and proposals may be available by the town clerk's office or emailing the planning board accordingly to the notice that appeared in the newspaper. All right, and we'll briefly go through the 2 sections we're amending. Did I say section 28? Section 28.
28 and
Yeah.
and 20 parts of 27.
Yeah, okay. So
I'll take section 28. The when we adopted our bylaw that addressed battery storage, the Attorney General returned it with 1 strikeout that we said there'd be no earth moved in connection with the project, which obviously is, they said that was too restrictive, and as a practical matter, yes, it was. But we now say that we'll not remove any more dirt than is required to complete the project.
okay. That's the 128.5.4.3.15. The first one is simply changing the wording in 28.5.2 to simply, it's more of a grammatical change, but it could confuse some of the wording down the road, and that's just a grammar change. We're changing the wording to read small scale ground mounted solar energy systems, from that to read small scale ground mounted solar energy systems. So it is a minor couple word change, but it's the right way to do that is to a zoning amendment. Those are those 2. Any discussions on it?
I'll make a motion to recommend. I will say, first of all, I have received no comments to any of these at the official email.
Okay.
I will make a motion to recommend this article.
I would second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. And the next one is the proposed changes to the Senior Housing Overlay District. Attorney Tom Reedy is on, and he would probably be the best one to explain this one.
Great, thanks, Jim. So this one, if anybody's been paying attention, besides the planning board, we've been talking about this for 6 or so months, if not a longer period of time. 2 items, high level 2 items. First one is to rename the senior housing overlay districts. So as folks recall, last town meeting, an additional area of town was approved to become part of the senior housing overlay. One of the zoning amendments on town meeting warrant is to change the name. And what I'll do is I will share my screen. if I'm going to send a request, Bill, if you could allow me.
Okay. Let's see, did I get that? Multiple participants can share. Yes, so you should be good.
Okay. Okay, so this is, again, that first article that we're talking about. It is to see if the town will amend the official zoning map to take the most recently included portion of the town as senior housing and call it rural senior housing overlay. It's that portion bordered to the north by Rocky Hill Road, to the west by North Maple, to the south by Russell Street, and then to the east by 116. So that would become the rural senior housing overlay. And then any of the senior housing overlay, which is not in the rural, becomes the central. And so really what the central is, and it's shown here, it was the existing senior housing overlay prior to last fall town meeting, which brought in the new, which we're now calling rural. So I'll simplify and say, in summary, senior housing overlay now into a rural senior housing overlay for that easterly portion as identified, and then central senior housing overlay, which was the existing senior housing prior to last town meeting.
I just want to make it clear, maybe the way it was printed out in the agenda and perhaps in the legal notice, that that's going to be a separate article.
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend the name, the creating,
Renaming the two districts.
creating subsections. You're renaming the subsections.
Okay.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mark Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0, one absent. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one are proposed changes to the Senior Housing Overlay District bylaw, section 27. Again, I'll share my screen. And so what we've done here is we've taken the existing Senior Housing Overlay District bylaw. We have, for discussion purposes and identification purposes, have identified the changes in red. And I suspect that on town meeting floor, the warrant article is just to replace the existing Senior Housing Overlay District section with what we're proposing, with all those changes accepted. And so I'll go through the changes. I can dwell on any of them that you would like, or we can also come back to them. First changes are really just capitalization. Again, capitalization. Then this next change is separating into that central and rural, based upon what we had just talked about with the two distinct sub-districts. Notably, the central and the rural shall be known collectively as the Senior Housing Overlay District, and all provisions of the Senior Housing Overlay District shall apply to both central and rural unless specifically stated otherwise, and you'll see that later in the document. Capitalization. Here's a first substantive change besides the sub-districting. Buildings containing more than 4 dwelling units are allowed, but only in the Central Senior Housing Overlay District. Capitalization. Another substantive change relative to the density. So what we did was we wanted to add the ability to have more density in the central, but to keep the rural as it had been in the senior housing before what we're doing right now. So the rural is as it was, 1 dwelling per 7260, 14 bedrooms per acre, 5 bedrooms per acre permitted by right. And then in the central, there is more density allowed. One dwelling per 4350 square feet, unless the maximum is waived in the discretion of the planning board upon a finding that the proposed project would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than if such a maximum was not exceeded. All calculations resulting in a fractional unit of half or more shall be rounded up. And any, all others being rounded down. The next change, the maximum number of senior housing dwelling units was based upon the number of single-family residential housing units in Hadley. That was at 5%. That's been increased to 10%. Capitalization. This next one here is maximum dwelling units per building, where it was previously 4, which you'll see that it stays in the rural. No building shall contain greater than 50 dwelling units, except that in the rural senior housing overlay district, no building shall contain greater than 4 dwelling units. We could probably have said in the central, you can have 50. This is the way I think that though we decided to word it, no building shall contain greater than 50, except in the rural, no greater than 4. And so again, rural is staying as existing. Capitalization. Again, 2 provisions that only deal with the rural, so keeping at the status quo. In the rural, no more than 50% shall be 4 family dwellings, and in the rural, at least 10% shall be single and 2 family dwellings. That does not apply to the central. Now for parking, and these are applicable to both the rural and the central, 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit are required unless reduced by the planning board upon a showing of alternative transportation access, but not less than 1 space per dwelling. So we've got some protective mechanisms where you can waive it if there's a nearby bus stop or a ride share, or just a demonstration that practically speaking, those 2 spaces won't be required. However, they at least have to have 1 space. Guest parking, 1 space per 4 dwelling, unless reduced by the planning board upon a showing of alternative transportation access. Common facility parking, same thing. There is a requirement, but that provided that no facility shall contain more than 12 spaces unless modified by the planning board. So again, just to give the board some discretion based upon the specifics of a project before them. Capitalization. This next one is capitalization is all, and also substantively really simple change just to allow a management company in the case of rental units, because the previous iteration of the bylaw contemplated only unit ownership. And I think practically speaking, there needs to be an ability to have a rental. And so then a management company would be that entity charged with monitoring and maintenance in that circumstance. Again, capitalization, and then we've got a footprint limitation. And so this is in the central senior housing overlay district only, which is really where it would be applicable to begin with. As long as it exists within the village center overlay, section 19.2.9.2 of the Hadley zoning bylaw may be waived. And that's the limitation on the building footprint size that can be waived upon a determination by the planning board that the appearance of the building is suitable for the neighborhood, taking into consideration, without limitation, the building setback, shielding, landscaping, and massing when viewed from public ways. And so it again gives the board discretion based upon project specifics to allow potentially an increased building footprint in that central senior housing, which also exists in the village center overlay, if the planning board finds that because of those reasons we mentioned, they can grant that waiver. Open space, again, capitalization, and then open space required, minimum 15% of the total site, which shall supersede the underlying zoning district requirement. So it's within the overlay to promote that development. Again, capitalization, 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 capitalization. I believe this is the last substantive change, capitalization, but then also these are procedures. So as the board knows, and as the public may know, there's a litany of requirements where an applicant needs to come before the board to discuss. Some of those in certain circumstances would be inapplicable. And so all we've done here is the procedure for the issuance of a special permit shall be as follows, provided, however, that the planning board may waive any requirements of this section when in its judgment, such action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with this bylaw. And so, certain things like, the scale, 1 inch equals 200 feet, that may be fine. But depending upon the size in acres, it may make more sense for a different scale. Previously, the board would have no ability to waive that. Now they do. You don't have to, but obviously if it makes sense in the context, the board now has the ability to waive it. So just to give more flexibility. And besides some additional capitalization, just because these are terms that deserve the capitalization, that is, again, capitalization, that's it. That's what you've got for the proposed changes to the senior housing overlay bylaw.
That is the proposed changes. Any questions or comments from anybody?
Well, I'll just make the one comment that Section 28, the Senior Housing Overlay District, was first adopted, coincidentally, May 1, 2008. And in the
17 years since then?
In the 17 years since then, we have only had one fully developed project. And under the original rules. There may be another coming down the pipeline. We don't have anything specific about that as yet, but one project in 17 years. I'm all for revising the requirements a bit to accommodate admittedly, we're doing this at the request of a developer who has a proposal, but I think it's a good proposal, and I think the fact that the original requirements haven't produced a substantial number of senior housing units is a good reason to try something different. So I'm in favor of this.
Just as a side note to that, initially, when this senior housing district was proposed, we were treading in uncharted waters. We did not know what was going to be possible or coming down the road, and we were conservative. And like Mr. Dwyer just mentioned, we've had one proposal in 17 years, and we're not sure if it's because of the environment, because we're too conservative, or just because of whatever. I don't know, but it's time, like he said, it's time to try a little bit different and see if we can encourage a little bit more of it. And it's a low impact tax usage to the town. Mr. Dunn.
I would just amend one thing you said. You said one proposal, and I think Mr. Dwyer said one successful.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Because we did have another one that was pending on a zoning change. What was that? Between Newton Lane and the
bike
and the bike path. I know I was one of the people speaking against it. Not that I didn't want housing and that I didn't think that was a well-designed project. I just heard from the neighbors that they really didn't want that in their backyard. So yeah, but yeah, still two efforts in 17 years. We might want to lower the bar a bit.
Very good. Anybody else?
No, just one more comment. I mean, you said conservative. I say we were cautious in the development of the senior housing because there were a couple of communities that overbuilt the senior housing and they ended up with just bare cement foundations. That's all. That was the one in East Hampton. So sometimes it's good to be cautious. But so we didn't get caught in that dive.
And even with the proposals in front of us, it is still cautious. It is not by any means going to open up the floodgates. There's still, the vast majority of the original bylaw is still intact. With that said, recommend or entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Well, did we not? Are we going to recommend as opposed to we did not recommend the Babb property? This was by petition.
In this case, because there are so many technical changes to the terms of the bylaw, I'm inclined to stand behind the technical changes. The Babb proposal was very simple to explain. Do you want senior housing here or not? This is more complex because of how we have gone about changing it. And I think it would, I'm going to make the motion to recommend.
And I will second that because I do think that we've been in the kitchen in terms of concocting this. We have had our share of input and edits, and so I don't mind putting my John Hancock on this in support.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can discuss.
Sorry, I pre-discussed.
I kind of agree with Mr. Dunn and Bill that, this came before us, Tom said 6 months ago. I bet it was far more than that. And we've put some pretty major, I would make some pretty serious discussions in this since the first of the year when we really started to take it up after the last town meeting. And we've had a decent amount of input into, I want to say, crafting the changes that were originally proposed to something that we feel is, appropriate for all involved. So I tend to agree with the motion to recommend for that. If they had just come in with the first one that we saw, and we didn't have a chance, that they were very cooperative in that we said we didn't want to take it up on a fall town meeting. Really wanted to put it off until everything until the changes passed for the North Maple Street section, and we wanted to review this on a more involved basis, which we've had, 3.5 months of input, or 3 months anyways. So, but if you feel otherwise, Joe, say, you can speak your piece.
No, I would agree. I think this was a collaborative. I think that when it first came, I was a little cautious, but I think I have seen the need, and I agree with that. And I think we were able to get our own thumbprints in there enough.
Any other comments? Hearing none.
My vote should be no surprise. Mark Dunn, aye.
Let's say roll call vote.
Okay. Mark Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Zagrodnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Very good.
Thank you very much.
I'm assuming you'll be at the meeting, Tom. Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
No, I expect, will the board be presenting and we'll be there for support?
I'll talk to Jessica. Jennifer. I'm sorry, Jennifer, and see if they're gonna put this up on the overhead behind her, because if they can put it up in red, it'll be a lot easier to explain. They're just trying to, one of us, me, you, whatever, standing up in front and trying to explain stuff. because it's just I can see this without having a real visual of the words being a disaster.
Agreed. And for what it's worth, nobody wants to see an attorney up there. So if one of the board members would, I think it might go a longer way.
Well, that's my excuse down.
Okay.
Okay.
So
thanks,
yeah.
guys. Good seeing you.
If the questions come up, Tom, you could answer them, and it should
Completely. Yep. Yeah. For sure.
But I think we do have a good enough understanding of it to, if it comes down to it, and I think that perhaps you do not need to plan to show the concept drawings.
Right.
When we were doing, when we were doing BAB, it was really an up or down referendum on Barry's plans. This covers a broader area. And while the Par-Mar plans are relevant, I think just talking about it across the board should be fine. It'll come back for a public hearing in due course anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the people at that meeting, when it was described, really understood what we were rezoning in the fall, and they definitely understood where the original senior housing was. So if we just tell them it's the village overlay district that runs from the bridge to the bike path, people pretty much understand that. And the rezoning that we did last fall along North Maple Street, where the industrial park is area, I think that's pretty clear.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
We're happy to do
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
And
Be sure to come and vote, and don't let anyone go home early.
Last item on the agenda is to review the proposed changes to the planning board fee schedule. And basically, we're changing 3 items. We are changing the approval not required to a flat fee of $80 per A&R building lot. So that if somebody comes in with a plot plan that has 2 building lots on it or 3, it'll be 2 or 3 times $80. Accessory apartment right now has a base fee. Well, under the new state changes, there will be no public hearing for the ADU, so there'll be no fees for anything we do with accessory apartments, even once we're waiting for the Attorney General on that. And the base fee, which is for basically all of the site plan approvals, business use and aquifer, et cetera, anything we have to hold a public hearing for, it will be the cost of the legal notice in the newspaper, the cost of the mailings, and $150 for the town. So I'll give you an example. We just had the public hearing that we have scheduled for 4/15 for 132 Russell Street, which is for HPP Realty, for a Class 2 used car license. It's in the aquifer. It's a site plan approval. And the legal, the legal notice was $487, $488. I'm allowing, let's see. Oh, I didn't write it down. Anyway, the total fee comes out to $650. So,
But you said that was 150 to the town?
150 to the town, correct. Which I'm not sure if that's a revenue. It's still, from what I understand, our fees are far below surrounding areas. So that's the proposal. Change those 3 fees. Any discussions, comments, questions?
I think it sounds reasonable.
Okay.
When's the last time we raised fees?
Pardon?
When is the last time we raised fees?
Hold on.
Was I in diapers, maybe?
2022, 3 years ago.
Okay.
That was when the Gazette jumped their fees significantly for legal notices. Before that, you put a legal notice in the Gazette for 2 times for $187. Now they're running $487. Cost of everything has gone up and we don't have much choice but to go to the Gazette.
No, it's statutory requirement.
Yeah. So
I'll make a motion to approve the increases.
I would second it.
Good motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Roddick, aye.
Motion passes 401. I will get this notice off to Jessica. And for change in legal fees, all we need is a notification in the newspaper, a vote by the planning board, public hearing, and we adopt them, and that's what we've just done. Yes. While we're at it. I do have one invoice to pay, and that is for the one I just talked about. Let me get the exact amount up here. Okay, the legal notice of the Gazette is $477.58.
I'll make a motion to pay the Gazette $477.58.
I'll second.
Joe's got it.
Yep. Oh, that's okay. Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Roddick, aye.
Motion passes 401 absent. Very good. Thank you.
So PVPC, we got an email this afternoon from Kyle, and he had family medical issues. So we will not be taking that up unless, Mark, you have anything you want to update us on 4DR.
Yeah, I can give you a quick update. We had our second meeting since restarting. We had, I think everyone made it there except for Nicole. I still haven't had a chance to meet Nicole. And we basically reviewed what we had done so far, and we started to dive into what our next public engagement will look like. And we started talking about doing 2 dates so that if someone can't make one, they could make another. We talked about a Saturday date and maybe a weekday night date. We just started to hone in on that because public engagement is what we want and need. And we were also interested in if it was possible, if we can set our dates. I think Randy spoke to the moderator to see if we could promote this at the town meeting, because that's a good opportunity to catch eyes and ears. And I think we were told that we could certainly be outside the room, so either in the hallway or outside the entrance door. Maybe we'll, I don't know if we can put some money but budgetarily into printing something out that we could hand out to people. And we also mentioned, is it possible to have a budget to maybe have some baked goods or something as an incentive to get people to come to our meetings? So anyway,
I don't think you want to be competing with the Mothers Club.
No, no, okay. Good point. So yeah, I think that was mostly what I had to report on our 40R, and that we were starting to move forward. So yeah.
Mark, before we adjourn, thank you for the notes on you went to that meeting regarding the ADUs.
Yep.
And is there going to be any definitive works coming out, for example, on septic systems? What would be allowed? What wouldn't be allowed?
I think, and I'll have to go back and check, but I think she said they're going to keep their website up to date with what they have, and I believe it was mass.gov/ADU, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check that. But I thought it was a very straightforward web page that they were going to put up all their information.
Yeah, but one of the other things you also commented on is that other zoning issues would remain intact from the town. So setbacks, Board of Health issues, so water hookups, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So look on the website to see if it's changing.
So I did send around the final regulations from Executive Office of
Housing and Livable Communities.
Healthy and Livable Communities. And I did read through that, and it made no effort to intrude on the sanitary code, the electric code, the building code.
Okay, there we go.
And zoning, the one thing that I did find interesting, that this by right is only if it's a single family home. If you try to put an ADU, add an ADU to an existing 2, 3, 4 or more family home, the planning board can require a special permit. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, we don't have any.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we have plenty of 2-family homes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, before we adjourn, there's a question about 61A.
Yes, there's we did receive, and I sent around a notice of intent to remove 156 River Drive.
Correct.
And that is something where we really don't the law requires the property owner to notify the assessors, the select board, the conservation commission, and the planning board. But only the select board can waive the right of first refusal.
Okay.
So it's more informational than anything else. And it looks like Mr. Quinlan has more information for us.
No, I just had a question for Mr. Maximowski. Where did you see if it was a 2-family or more, you could require him for sure to come in front of you?
The Bacon Wilson put out a legal brief. And they said that in the legal brief, that if it's a single family home, it's by right. But if it's more, if the property has a 2, 3 or more family home on it, then the planning board, if the zoning is so designated, can require a special permit.
Wow, last week I was at a training on it, and we're saying a 4-family could add it. It just would trigger, that's I'll have to look into that one. No, it was interesting you had said that it was all by right. It's a by right for the property. If everything else was by special permit or in the zoning.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I'm sending you the Bacon Wilson blurb.
Thank you. No, that's interesting. Thank you. Learn something every day.
Yeah, too bad we don't have Tom with us.
Yeah. But the Board of Health issue is going to be the critical one. You know, somebody will say, well, I'm living in the house, I'm all alone now, and I can add this ADU to it, but all of a sudden it's a 3-bedroom house and it's sold and filled up, and now how do you handle it? So,
Well, you know, they do say here, eligible properties, any home with at least one
Oh,
dwelling
okay.
unit that qualifies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was confusing that with the next paragraph where it says multiple ADUs. If you put in more than one ADU, a special permit is required. I'm sorry, my mistake. I misread that.
Okay.
Okay, but it's good that it says this requires a special permit from the town. Instead of saying this might require, because we don't have anything in the bylaw about multiples, do we?
We just say one.
One, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd have to do a bylaw amendment if we were to go to anything else.
An interesting one is if it is a detached, a CSL holder has to pull the permit. Because one of the applications in Hadley is a detached existing garage. And when I brought it in front of the state, I was just worried about issuing it to the homeowner, but it's like an apartment, because it doesn't have to be owner occupied. A CSL holder does have to pull a permit to do a detached, which was interesting, because the building code is not exempt in any way. It's in, full force with any of these ADUs.
thank you.
So could we just loop back to the 156 River Drive?
Yes.
I think we know the property. It's
Amy, which one is this?
actually, let me bring up the
Yeah, while you're bringing it up, I'll just explain to Mark Dunn, it seems like we're talking around them. 61A is a provision that a town can allow a farm or farmer with 5 acres or more to get a reduction in his taxes if he has a agricultural crops growing on it, and you have to fill out a paper every year if you're growing something. If you are selling the property, you have to pay so much of the back taxes for so many years. And that's what we're discussing. And the selectmen have the authority to, probably it sounds like a right of first refusal.
they do have a right of first refusal. That unlike the APR where you permanently give up the rights, the trade-off for the 61A exemption is you temporarily give up some rights.
Yep.
So
It
that
has
is
to
a
be
state.
parcels of 5. The parcels have to be 5 acres or more or larger. So if you got a 4.5 acre parcel, it doesn't qualify for a exemption, even if you're a farmer and you have 100 acres. It goes by the size of the parcel, Mark.
So the 61A is a state MGL that we adopted, or?
No, the state adopted it and they offered it to all the towns because, for example, if a farmer was farming on Route 9 and that property is worth megabucks, the taxes would be more than the squash would be worth. So it would be automatically have to be sold.
Right.
So this is the property. It is on the west side of River Drive, just before the North Hadley Sugar Shack, just north of the Porter Phelps Huntington property. Well, this is Porter Phelps down here. This is
Poinsett. River Drive Excavating.
River Drive Excavating, and it's in here.
Okay.
And as you can see with the overlay of the wetlands, there's a lot of wet in there. It is 12 acres. Probably, I don't think I have the flood overlay here, but probably the easterly several acres are probably in the definitely in the floodplain. And the select board and the conservation commission, I believe, have already voted to not exercise the right of first refusal. And I'll make a motion to not recommend exercising.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any discussions?
So just explain to me and the public one more time. So the right of first refusal is for the town to buy it?
Yes.
Okay.
But Bill,
That's the trade-off. If you
Right.
take the tax exemption,
Okay.
that the trade-off is you are giving the town a right of first refusal.
Gotcha.
And that is in fact how we ended up with the North Hadley Fire Station where it is,
Okay.
because the person who owned that property wanted to sell it for building lots.
Okay.
So in this case,
It doesn't offer a lot of,
the property owner will also have to pay what are called rollback taxes for which I think are the last, I forget if it's the last 3 or the last 4 years. The difference between the reduced tax and the fair market value tax for the last so many years have to be paid as the cost of rolling out of exiting 61A.
And if they sold it to another farmer, then they wouldn't have to pay those?
That's correct. If another farmer bought the property, they would just file an agreement to continue agricultural operations.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for indulging me.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussions or questions? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Dunn, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Grodnick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Do we need to send an email out to this to the Board of Selectmen, Bill?
Yeah, I'll email
Can you handle
Jennifer.
that, Bill?
Pardon?
Oh,
Hey,
Kayla can send an email to Jennifer.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you, Kayla. Anybody have anything else?
I had a couple, if I can remember what I was thinking about earlier. One was, so I maybe have been lax in my duties, but I don't normally go to the town hall and check the mailbox. And luckily Jim told me I had mail and I went and looked and there was something from early February. So that's kind of embarrassing that, and that was not junk mail. That was something I should respond to. So that's kind of, should I be checking the mailbox regularly or is that something we could ask?
I go into the town hall a couple times a month, depending what's going on. I'm sure Bill probably goes the same. And I check the mailbox and what I'll do is, I know Joe's got some old mail there too, but those are mostly old pay stubs from planning board, and that really doesn't matter that much.
Right. And I had a few of those that must have come back to the town and instead of being
because
delivered.
everybody has direct deposit, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, we get our big pay anyways.
Big bucks. Yeah,
and at the end of the year, you get the W-2 anyway, so.
Yeah, but there was a townsperson that wrote to me about something and I didn't get it. I didn't get to read it until like last night. So that was embarrassing. I still need to respond to him.
But to answer your question, from now on, when I go in, if I see something for anybody, I'll drop you guys an email.
Okay.
Well, I check the mailbox most days. I leave the pieces of mail that are addressed to specific people, but I can send out an email when I notice that there's something there for addressed to a specific person.
Oh, that would be great.
It'd be great. Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you. That'd be terrific. Yeah, that was just, I'm going to have to apologize to this person. So, the other thing I was thinking about was we were talking last meeting about, it came up in discussion how we had amended the parking for industrial, because it just doesn't make sense to go 2 for 1 on these giant warehouses where you're going to have maybe 4 to 6 people in there. And I got thinking about that, and as a someone that values sustainability and the environment, I get that we make our parking requirement kind of onerous as like a bargaining chip along Route 9, but I just wonder if it's not something we could put on a future agenda to discuss. Maybe it's time that we, what do other towns do? Or is that something we could discuss with, put on next year's agenda for PVPC to maybe have our parking more prescriptive to use instead of just generic? Because the message it sends is that we want to pave the town of Hadley. It's
Well, we did have some revisions that if they did not have adequate parking, they could purchase some additional parking places. So that was one of the compromises, because what we run into, for example, Echelon was a great example. When it was an automotive parts store, there was enough parking right in front of the building. But when it became a restaurant with an addition on, they had to park on West Street and then on the Common.
right.
So it's difficult sometimes to anticipate the future of that particular building or a building. So, but sure.
Other towns, many other towns, Mark, have a formula. If you're going to have a restaurant, it's this many parking.
Right.
You're going to have a retail store, it's this much. A dentist office, and so on and so on and so on.
Which is based on how the traffic usage is, right?
What we've run into is today it could be like Joe just said, an auto parts store.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a 2,000 square foot building and you probably need half a dozen parking spaces. That same building down the road, because our business district is all encompassing, could become a restaurant. It could become an office of some sort. And now you don't have enough parking. What do you do? So that's why we've kept the 2-for-1 parking. The one thing, we don't require you to put the parking in. We require you to have space for it. And there's a number of places in town where the parking was excessive. And we told them, as long as you design for it, it can be green space. You can leave it as grass. You only put in what you need. But at least if it's change use down the road, it's there if it's necessary.
That's why you'll see on some of the older plans. I don't think we've done one recently, but we many years ago introduced the concept of reserve parking, which is Jim said, we do not require you to pave the entire required area. You can pave and save by only paving what you need, as long as you have it. So when the next guy comes in, otherwise we'd be in a position, as both Jim and Joe had said, we might have to tell the restaurant that you cannot locate there because parking only supports a retail store.
Right. But if they did sell a property and it went from, let's say an auto parts store to a, eat-in restaurant, then they would have to apply for a change of use permit through Tommy's office. And I don't know if we currently make them come before us for a change of use, but that would be when the parking would change. And then we could just say, you don't have enough parking there. Here are your options, either this, or if that doesn't work, you have to look for another site. But I just feel like we're taking the easy way out with the blanket 2-for-1, and it might be sending the wrong message, because if someone wants to develop but doesn't want to pay for TDR or whatever. Well, I guess if it can be reserved, can the reserve count as their green space also?
No.
No, so it is,
Parking is
restricted.
parking and green space is green space. You're right. We can discuss this way more in detail at a future meeting, Mark.
Okay.
Because it is not a simple observation, but coming from, if you would, the three of us that have seen this occur, we have been I would say, be honest, we have been burned because we didn't have enough parking for that property. How do you tell somebody they can't move there?
Right.
When it's zoned properly. I mean, I would say put this on an agenda at some time when we're on light on items, Bill, so that I can see this taking a bit of discussion, especially once we get because Matt's not going to run, so we should wait until we get the new member on board.
Sure.
So we can all they can understand it as well.
Okay, that's all I had.
That's good. No, good question.
Yeah. And thank you all for your feedback.
So I am going to work directly with Kyle over the next week or so on those standard conditions I've been talking about forever. Try to get that wrapped up before we lose Kyle to family leave.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far off that is.
And I will send positive vibes to his wife's health condition because I know they're very close to their due date. He's having twins.
Oh, he'll be a busy man.
Yes. Yes, he has
Good for him.
He has a little bit of the eyes, deer in the headlights look right now. I'm going to be a double dad.
Once you get over the first, I don't know how many months, first year of the twins, then you get twice the fun.
Yeah. After you have twice the diapers, yeah.
That's part of the routine.
And once they can tell you where it hurts, so you can help them out of their sadness. I have nothing else.
I have nothing.
I have nothing else.
Mr. Rodnick, anything? Oh, no. We're good. Mr. Quinlan, anything? Kayla? No.
Tommy, will we see you at our next meeting or?
No.
I don't know. I was home, so I had to stop in and hang out, I guess. And I was on the phone. Good thing Didi couldn't answer about the other gentleman.
Okay.
You're welcome to come to any meeting, Mr. Quinlan.
Yes.
Thank you.
As an interested citizen of Hadley.
Yes. Nobody have anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
No,
All
Joe.
in favor? Aye. All in favor.
Done.